A problem I've seen that is very obvious to people nowadays but has not been addressed seems to be due to the in lack of the ability to recognize the implications of such a phenomenon for ultimately dealing with the problem. It has to do with the tilt of the Earth. And this is how a normal planet's magnetic field looks like. It is a planet whose axis is whose axis orientation is normal to their home star, which is the sun. This is our planet. It has an tilt of about 13 degrees, and the implications of which go according to the law of cosines. The law of cosines states the resultant difference of the sum of two angles of the sum of two vectors. In this case, the two vectors are actually two planar regions, the latitudinal and the longitudinal planar regions. You can imagine two disks orthogonal to each other exerting force at an angle. One is normal to the sun and the other is normal to the earth. Theta being 13 degrees means that that means that the instantaneous magnetic flux of the strength, which is already weaker by cosine 13, is given by the addition by sine 13. Sine of 0 is 0. Sine of 13 is not 0. Therefore, this comes into effect whenever theta isn't 0. So this is the friction force being exerted on us at a constant rate. It has a variety of implications. Imagine a magnetic field, a normal magnetic field, bent at such an angle of 13 degrees creates such a noise. Now, what we know about magnetic fields is that they produce light, which means that they have an effect on photosynthesis, which leads to an effect on the evolutionary rates and processes that occur on the Earth. Instantaneously, they can be detected by people's brains as the magnetic field itself affects the material nature of the substances within the Earth, including people, and it can cause discrepancies in reasoning, which can lead to a loss of problem-solving capabilities and confusions due to data loss, according to sine and cosine of 13 degrees. As has also been noticed by scientists in the theory of colors, is that the Earth, being a spherical shape, has a constantly descending angle approaching the equator. As the angle increases, light stretches and is red-shifted. Thus, the people at the equator receive the least concentration of light incident onto the equator versus the people at the poles, who receive light incident to the poles. So this is light, and the wavelength is getting longer as at the equator and getting shorter at the poles. This is our problem, where the light hits the magnetic field at a strange angle. Thus, the distortion of the light signal coming from the sun is in accordance to the data loss given here, sine 13 degrees. So across the entire planet there is a distortion due to this bending of the magnetic field. This causes many severe implications in our evolution and reasoning. A solution is to take a diamagnetic material to geosynchronize and magnetosynchronize itself with the Earth at the North Pole, and to exert force so that it can move the Earth back into a normal axial rotation with respect to the Sun, thus normalizing the magnetic field with respect to the Sun, and reducing data loss to zero. That can pass through more clearly. Another solution is the interference of the magnetic fields by light of other stars, which can be solved by having satellites for receiving light from those individual stars. And another solution is to actually create a magnetic light pole by shooting a non-burning laser light into the North Pole. That would also have the same effect without penetrating through the North Pole. But this may be more costly and may affect the aurora. The estimated time to do this should be 5 years and $12.5 billion. Let me see. I based this research on the cost it took to build the International Space Station, and also something else. Yeah, I studied the light incident onto prismatic spheres. So that is my presentation. It's a very important problem. I think it must be addressed. Anyway, thank you. Goodbye.